Oh boy, here we go again, reading some
Hey
books.
there, John.
Hey,
Hey.
Sam.
Stop what you were just
What?
saying.
Why?
Stop all that gibberish that was pouring out of your mouth. You're just wasting both of our
You're
time
right.
saying a bunch of dumb
You're
stuff
right.
that doesn't
I'm sorry,
matter.
Sam. Let's talk about chapters 50 through...
Today it's all business,
58.
John. We're not going to waste any words on stuff that's not vitally important to the story or the discussion thereof.
Starting when?
Now. Brandon Sanderson, Words of Radiance, end of part 3. This is where, just like happens at the end of every part, something is hitting a fan, and I can't say what, because this is a family-friendly broadcast.
Correct. I feel like I've already failed with the no words not saying to the book thing. Because, I mean, that's correct. That wasn't really adding anything. And now that I'm explaining...
And actually, even that sentence where you said the no words not saying to the book thing, that was just a lot of word vomit right there. That didn't...
Well, at that point, I figured the cause was lost, and I had nothing left to lose, so...
No. All right. Let's kind of hop into it, though.
I got a lot of notes.
Honestly, I almost want to stop reading the beginning of chapter things, because I feel like for the last several in a row, we've been like, I don't really know what to make of that.
Every time I read it, I'm like, well, maybe Sam will talk about this, but I don't really get it. So it's gonna
same dude. Like, we're getting some information about maybe these are the names of heralds. I don't know. We'll find out later. We're getting like little tidbits about the orders of the Radiance, but this is stuff that I think we'll just kind of come back to. Right. I think that right now it's kind of meaningless.
Yeah, it's just...
And it may gain meaning later once we learn more.
Fun little nugget they give us at the beginning, but...
Mm-hmm.
I like those death rattles. Bring those back, huh?
Yeah, the death rattles were fun. Yeah. They were wacky.
Wacky wild. Okay, so...
All right. Chapter freaking 50.
50. So...
What's happening here?
So the Parshendi messenger is due real soon. Adolin's still in that bunker at the fancy wine restaurant during the high storm. And wouldn't you know it, Sadius is also there. And
yep, they have a talk. Just like we heard Sadius was planning on doing in the past, he has officially renounced his position now as the High Prince of Information, which is kind of a blow to the king. I don't even want your position, says Sadius.
So further undermining his authority, they know it'll probably be a hard position to fill because none of the other High Princes really want to align with Dalinar,
Yep. We know, unfortunately, that Eshonai turned evil, so I assume that the talk with the Parshendi isn't going to go so well. There was another message. This time it was scratched on the floor. It said, 32 days, seek the center.
Right, and this time we get pretty much irrefutable proof that it is actually Dalinar writing these messages.
No, John, because he's making it so obvious that it can't be what's happening.
You said that to me the first time, and Dalinar's like, look, it's my knife. It's gotta be. It's more dull now.
The fact that even Dalinar thinks it's him makes me think there's no way it's him.
Well, I'll cling to it foolishly for a little bit longer, and we'll see what happens.
I just can't believe it. I honestly don't remember, but if it's Dalinar, my mind will be
really
blown,
funny.
dude, because I feel like there's no way.
So 32 days. Okay. Seek the center. The center of what?
Mm-hmm. And Adolin comments on the fact that these messages being left on the walls and the floor are foretelling, which is of course very bad in foreign religion, right? Yeah. And this is also something that Navani mentioned back in one of her diary entries, right? She said there was something even worse than the countdown. It was the fact that this was of the future and that was of the Voidbringers or something like that. So it's been brought up before.
Yeah. So seek the center, presumably meaning the center of the Shattered Plains. That seems like the obvious, direction that would go.
Yeah, I don't know what else we really have a center of.
Yeah,
like
the cream-filled donut.
Found it, John. Found the center to that really easy. All right.
The end of that 32 days, like we said, is in the middle of the weeping.
Smack dab in the middle, and now it sounds like only some years have a day that's like a break in the middle of a weeping. So, it's like a leap year sort of
light years during which, in the weeping, there's a day of light, and this is one of those years. But this 32 days is not right on the light day. It's like a couple days before, I want to say.
No. It is right on the light day. It's that what it said in the book was that it didn't line up exactly with the new year.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right? It was lined up with the light day instead, which was offset by just a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving onwards. Adolin is trying to lay down the law to his dad, saying that, no, I'm going to go do the negotiations with the Parshendi, right? And when he has the line where he says, "This is not subject to discussion," I'm like, who are you?
I was like, who do you
Adolin,
think you are talking
who
about?
Who are you to talk to Dalinar like that?
Dalinar,
come on.
The king
no one
of
can talk to Dalinar that way.
And
it's like I don't know. It's like a toddler trying to like lay down the law to Barack Obama or something. You know, it's like, come on, you just can't.
Right, yeah. And
can't just do that.
Adolin's like, all right, you are way more important than every one of us in this room. And I'm like, weird way to prove this point, but effective. He's like, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. And Dalinar's like, okay. So Adolin is gonna go handle this little negotiation, and I was like, I mean, I know he's trained as a High Prince, but I can't help but feel he's gonna screw this up somehow.
Yeah, and he goes disguised as his dad because that is, of course, who Ash and I wanted to meet with, right?
So he wears his shard coat.
Negotiations go absolutely horribly, just like we expected, because Ash and I had made up her mind ahead of time that this wasn't going to happen. They were going to kill them all or whatever.
In her new storm form, she's convinced that they can win the war themselves, and she doesn't reveal as much, but she's like, yeah, if you want peace, you're going to have to kill us. And Adolin's like, all right, deal.
Yep, and then there's one point where he's like, why did you kill Gavilar, or whatever, and she says, he bragged, thinking we would welcome the return of our gods. Yep. Which does seem to imply that Gavilar did totally intend to bring their gods back, right? Which at this point we're pretty sure are the Odium Spren, I want to say.
Yeah, the Void Bringers maybe.
And he was bragging about it. He thought he was doing something freaking great.
Yeah.
We're still missing a lot about Gavilar. Do you remember how he also had that necklace that was like some dark gem or something that he gave to Zeth, and we just don't know what happened to that?
Yeah, am I...
What the heck? Yeah, there's a lot of missing puzzle pieces, Gavilar-wise. So negotiations failed. Yep. Peace will not be made, which means that Dalinar says, "All right, well, we're marching then. Yeah. We're going to the middle of the Shattered Plains. We're going to seek that center, and we're going to hopefully kill everyone we find there.
Just an all-out assault. Call it a day."
And their plan right now is going to leave them marching into the Shattered Plain during the Weeping to make sure they don't get hit by a high storm. Which means that this epic battle will pretty much be happening like right at the end of that spooky countdown.
And I think they specifically planned like the day that it'll happen to be a few days before the end of the countdown. So, how does that?
Sure.
What a horrible event is gonna happen immediately after this? March on the plains.
Yeah, we will.
Sure, we'll find out.
We'll see what happens with that.
Then we get into a fun little viewpoint shifting chapter here.
Yeah, where it bounces back and forth a whole ton. And it starts out with Kaladin, who is heading back out into the Shattered Plains towards where he met Wit, he mentions, right? Like, that's kind of the direction he was walking, which made me remember, like, oh my god, what happened to Wit's
Yeah, same.
Like, I was like, we still just never heard about
that whole meeting.
Luckily for us, that actually comes up pretty soon.
And so
Shallan is going into Amaram's house.
She disguises herself as a messenger, and then goes in and disguises herself as the maid that she's seen coming out of at the house at this exact time every day. And
basically Kaladin is doing this whole chapter. Kaladin's doing a training montage, and Shallan is doing an Ocean's 11 montage.
Yeah, they're both just showcasing all their powers basically.
Yeah, and it's fun, it's fun stuff going on, but really what we gain from it is that, Shallan does make it into Amaram's secret room, and what's in there is just like a bunch of really, really well-kept, fancy maps. Amaram has been getting around to the fact that men aren't allowed to write by using the, the Storm Warden script and whatnot, and he's like taking all these notes about when high storms. It seems like he is like a hobbyist storm warden, but also he's somehow going to use this information to bring back the Voidbringers.
Yeah, that's definitely lots of notes about the Parshendi, and incriminating text is up in there.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, what does Amaram, somebody who, as we've discussed before, seems to be like a person who has genuinely good intentions, he just believes that the ends justify the means to a fault, right? What does he have to gain by bringing back the Voidbringers? Why does he believe that this is for the greater good or whatever? Or does he even believe that? Is that just all a ruse and we were wrong?
Yeah.
Who's to
say?
So, whack. Also, Amaram, when he went out to receive the message, this is at the end. She does this all this Ocean's 11 stuff, and eventually she's like meeting with Amaram again after she's explored the room. She tells him to as the messenger she originally snuck in as.
And
when he approaches her, he says, like, who is the message from? Is it what does he have to say to me? And he says he as if this is some spooky person who has like blackmail something over him or something. I don't know. He seemed like
he seemed to know who it was from and like what more or less it was regarding. And of course Shallan's like,
and she says, "Oh, actually."
Yeah, so it's from Shallan, and she's like, "Yeah, we're just trying to get a nice little catalog of all the shard blades we got, And so, hey, if you could..."
And he's like, "Oh yes, shard blades," and he summons his.
Yeah, he's like, "I gotta, recently they're so crazy. I love just any excuse to summon it. But what's this?" Shallan recognized this one.
Oh god.
Oh, it's from Helleran.
It's Helleran's old shard blade.
Right. And so we know.
Amaram says, I killed the shard blade previous owner, and that's why it's mine now. And Shallan is like, "Oh my god.
Yep.
If that was Helleran's shard blade, and Amaram killed the guy, Amaram killed my big favoritist brother. Oh god, no. I hate Amaram. I'm going to get back at him somehow." And we're sitting here, the readers. And we're like, Amaram did not kill that guy. Shallan.
That was not him.
This is real. I don't know how to tell tell you this, Shallan, but yeah.
Remember that guy you stole the boots from? He he did kill your favoritist brother. I know, weird connection there, but
it sounds pretty clearly like Kaladin killed Helleran.
I mean, they even they make sure to give some some hints saying like his hair color,
even like a short physical description of the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she's like, "That's Helleran, all right." So this is. Yep. And this Helleran dying, well, the shard bearer with the shard blade dying, that was an on-screen death, right? So
that guy's
pretty
dead.
Case closed, signed, sealed, delivered.
So my theory about Helleran going off to be a world hopper and do cool adventures with Hoyd, not a good theory. It turns out
did not really pan out.
Turns out that was a wrong one.
I've got a real wrong prediction coming up here. I'll be sure to fill you in when that happens.
So Helleran had been sent as an assassin, possibly to stop whatever Amaram is plotting, right? And Kaladin at the time had killed him, of course, with totally good intentions, thinking that he was just defending a cool guy from a murderer, right? But yikes!
Doopsie.
That is going to come to a head. That is not going to be pretty when we sort that out. Kaladin's just like flying around. He did his training montage. He now is pretty good at using his storm powers, which it turns out was like super
the beginning
easy.
Of the chapter, he's like stumbling as he switches gravity all over, and then by the end, he's like mastered like multiple lashings, and he's running all over, and just doing all kinds of cool stuff. And he like
just coming to rest in midair, flying around super fast. It's like he could go scout the Parshendis so easy if only he told Dalinar about his incredible abilities. Like, that'd be very useful right now, Kaladin.
He just, triple lashes himself to the sky and just, shoots upwards, And, when he's hanging up there, he looks over the shattered plains and he goes, "What? Hey, this is a pattern. Like I had in a dream one time, It's a discernible arrangement of weird plateaus. Why? What's the deal with that, huh?"
We also get just a tiny bit of dialogue between Kaladin and Syl about Szeth, right? Kaladin's like, "You're sure he doesn't have his brand?" And Syl's like, "Oh no, it's definitely his blade that gives him his powers." And it's just like, it's so clear that he definitely has an honor blade.
That was just 100% confirmed, which we'd pretty much already.
Kaladin's like, "So I get it. I get that I shouldn't fight with a shard blade because they're tainted with the murder of a bunch of ancient Spren, right? But what if a new one could somehow be forged? Could that happen?" And Syl's like, "Oh yeah, that can happen." It's like, oh.
Well, that really gets around this problem nicely, doesn't it?
I mean, chop, Syl. Let's get to it. Tell me how to do this Shardblade Forge. And then last thing that happens in the chapter, Shen, our Parshman friend, right, is like, "I have to go. My real name's Relaine. See ya."
And Kaladin's like, yeah, hey, you're free to do whatever you want. And he's like, you're a good guy. I'm gonna make sure the people I'm going to know that. He doesn't say that, but that's our...
Yeah. But we know, as people who have already totally cracked the forum on the fact that this guy's a dual form Parshendi, that he's going back. He's like, oh God, some of the humans are good. This is gonna suck having to kill this guy later.
Yeah, he's like...
And now he's going back to the Parshendi because it's that time. They're about to do a whole war, right?
Yeah. Gonna report in just before they launch this full-scale attack, presumably back onto all the humans.
Yeah, and he's regretful about the fact that he's gonna have to murder Kaladin one day, but
hey,
such is life.
That's the way the cookie crumbles, ain't it? And
well, shucks.
I think that's pretty much all I got.
Next chapter, my only note is, wow, Adolin is down to 1v2.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. I literally have, without Shallan explaining the plan at all, Adolin challenges the dueling champion to fight him in a partner 2v1. Yep,
Adolin's just like, let's clown, bro. I'm in it to win it, and he's down to fight two people at once, which is very cool, very baller.
Shallan's like,
can't wait to see that fight scene. I hope nothing goes awry.
Shallan's like, you gotta win in a spectacular fashion. Adolin was like, say no more, do not explain this plan to me at all. I'm gonna challenge two people at once. And it turns out that was actually fine, but at the time I was like, you're just not gonna clarify what? Okay.
Yeah. It turns out that part of the plan, had it gone the way he wanted it to, actually would have been perfectly in line with what Shallan was talking about.
Worked excellently.
Yeah, because the only details she had given him so far were just like, you have to win spectacularly, and he was like, got it, and don't tell me anything else. I have a plan.
Yeah,
it was funny. All right. Shallan now returns to Moray's, to the Ghost Bloods, right? Saying like, mission accomplished, checked in on Amaram, and they have this whole funny scene where he's like, so what's Tin's excuse this time? She didn't even try to go. We had eyes on the windows. We would have known if there was an attempt, and she's like, I don't know how to say this, but mission successful, bam. And she's like laying down all these details, like drawings of the room. And he's like,
Moray's is totally
I am not off there,
which is kind of nice.
And I just love this part so much because Moray's is like, he's like this incredibly like fancy but like scarred, like he looks like the sort of guy who's just killed tons of people.
He's super refined.
The first time he saw Shallan, it was because he like narrowly missed her with a poisoned dart, just sort of on purpose, just sort of as an intimidation factor. Right. And he's just surrounded by all these dangerous people who he's given permission to go murder folks. But then in this scene, he sees her drawings and he's like, wow, really look at this! Oh, this is really good. Did you draw it? He's like so excited about this.
Like the way it's phrased,
he's like a proud dad.
He's like, he tests her abilities because she accidentally lets it slip. She drew these from memory. And so he's like, hey, Jericho, stand there. Okay, now go away. And then she draws him, and like Brendan Sanderson wrote, like he was proud like a father would be that she was able to do this.
Yeah, he's like, wow, you know where we're putting this? Right on the fridge. He's just like...
Right, yeah. He's like so impressed. He's like, we can use this. And then it also kind of comes to light that Shallan, killed Tin. Oopsie doopsie.
Yeah. It's funny because he's just like, you killed her, didn't you? As kind of, I think kind of a shot in the dark almost, But then Shallan like blushes and she just like instantly
she's like,
oh no, I did. Oh, I did kill her.
Yeah.
It was fun. I really like this whole scene.
This is a good little chapter.
And I briefly kind of hoped that Shallan and Moray's would end up developing actually like a really fun relationship.
Doesn't quite turn out that way.
But then he's kind of like, oh, by the way, if anyone wants to kill Shallan after this, cool. That's cool to me. Right. Fair game.
He's
boys.
Like, hey, you're almost an official Ghostblade. You'll get your cool fun vest and badge in the mail. But not yet. And in the meantime, if you were to be killed by any of these people, then know you can draw an exact picture of them and turn them into the authorities. I mean, that's...
I wouldn't even be
right.
miffed,
I wouldn't turn an eye. I wouldn't give a single heck. And so then things get a lot more tense, and spooky mask lady is there. And so Shallan goes out to her carriage driver, tells him to drive away, that she's in the carriage, and, basically gets him to go without her, and she hides in a fake boulder that she's light-weaved kind of around herself.
And she hears a conversation while she's in there between Moray and somebody about like it sounds like they report to somebody named Master Thydakar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they also mentioned somebody called Astarizes?
Yeah, something like, I didn't write down the second
or
name,
something.
But yeah, I remember hearing about that.
And they're talking about his cronies, and the way they're talking. Well, the fact that they say Astaris is Astaris is his name, and I put an es here instead of an apostrophe s to indicate. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Astaris, the fact that they call people his cronies makes it sound like he's probably somebody they don't like too much. Because I wouldn't say, yes, my esteemed colleague's cronies.
Yeah, right,
you know, that's like.
Yeah, there's definitely some antagonism here.
And it sounds like he's implying that Amaram is one of these cronies.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
presumably that's another, because we know that the Ghostblades want to get information on the Voidbringers and Urithiru kind of generally.
It's Ghostbloods, right?
What did I say? Oh, yeah, it's Ghostbloods.
You said it the last 2 times. I did mention it the first time. I was like, freak out. And then 2 times, I'm going to jump on
policy.
it. I'll kill you.
So the Ghostbloods, that's what they're interested in. Clearly, Amaram has some connection to that, and they knew that prior to, sending Shallan Vale to go check this out. So,
yeah, well, it just sort of sounds like Thydakar and Astaris. These are kind of the main players in this weird Ghostbloods conflict thingy, and Amaram and Mraize and everyone. These are the pawns or whatever, or I guess maybe the bishops.
Right, yeah, they're like high-ranking members, but they're certainly not the mob boss, as it were.
Yeah. So now I just want to know about these Thydakar and Astaris.
I totally thought Mraize was like the mob boss, for lack of a better term, of the whole Ghost.
Also, there's some third guy who they don't name, but like the person Mraize is talking to like seems to express some concern or something, and Mraize replies like, "Oh, that old fool, he just sows chaos. He hides in an insignificant city." And I'm like, what? Could he be talking about Taravangian?
Right, that was my immediate thought when I read it too, yeah.
Because the thing is, Taravangian does sometimes come across as an old fool.
Oh, absolutely. Right? That's totally an act
he is in a city that, for people who are in the heart of Alethi culture, may consider that insignificant, right? Way over in, where is he? What's that city called?
It's not Yakovit.
Kharbranth.
Right,
Kharbranth. The thing is that Taravangian does sow chaos, but as far as I'm aware, that is not common knowledge. I kind of assumed that was his secret.
Definitely. I mean, he's the one that sicked, Zeth on everybody. Then had...
So I guess it's possible that the Ghostbloods know about all that. Maybe they even work with him or something. I don't know.
Because he's got his big hospital where they're bleeding people out for their death rattles, so he's connected to this somehow as well. But in a much more disturbing way.
Lastly, they mention a creature in Tukar.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And one of them says they're not convinced he's human.
Right.
So who is this spooky, probably murder man?
Could this be our old buddy Axes or one of his kind of race, whatever that was, the shapeshifter boys?
Yeah, I don't know.
That guy is never come up again, and he's the weirdest life form in this whole series so far.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to check in on Axes again if we get a chance. Whew, yeah, so I feel like that was, just that little conversation right at the end of this chapter was like a lot of little breadcrumbs, as you call them,
but not a lot of...
We'll see what comes of all that.
I like this new kind of Ghost Blood subplot, though. It's interesting to see, because it's like, this was just a mysterious organization kind of working against what Yesna was doing. And now we're, deep into it, and we still don't have, almost any of the answers.
Yeah, I hope that Shallan provides us with some more Ghostblood style enlightenment. Right. Okay, moving on. Hey, it's Hoyd, but I guess before he gets there,
it's date night.
They're like on a date.
Kaladin goes with
Adolin, and Shallan, and God, Kaladin has one line that's so freaking edgy. I think Adolin says to him "Where's your sense of humor?" And Kaladin says, "I traded in my sense of humor long ago."
Oh yeah.
And Adolin says, "For what?" And Kaladin says, "Scars."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, God, Kaladin, shut up.
And it's so funny because like
so embarrassing.
Before this whole like chapter, when he was doing the thing where he was running around in the caverns, he was like, "This is who I'm meant to be. I'm a windrunner. This is the best I've felt since like before like Tien died. Like this is the happiest I've been in literal years."
Yeah, I mean, Syl even had some line with him. She was like, "Are you finally ready to embrace who you are?" And Kaladin was like, "Well,
he's like, I think I'm getting close."
Yeah,
and then this chapter, he's like, "But also, why? If everything's so great, why do roses have thorns?" And you're like, "Oh God, stop."
Yeah, I'm 14 and
exactly, right? Precisely.
And then who shows up? Oh, holy moly, it's Wit. And hey, just a couple of chapters ago, I was like, "What happened to that flute?" And now we know that Kaladin did just lose
he
the
just
flute.
left it in the Bridgman camps. And Hoyt is like really just...
Maybe someone has it.
Yeah,
but
Hoyt is really busting his balls about losing this flute. He's like, I told you to master it by the time I met you next. How's that coming along? And Kaladin's like, oh, yeah, no, that ain't happening. And
Wit's having this whole conversation with Kaladin where he keeps saying all this like funny stuff and insightful stuff, and like, Wit will say like a couple of sentences, then Kaladin will be like, huh? Yeah,
Right.
And it just makes me think so much of Tinder. Right?
Yeah.
Wit is he's having a conversation with some girl on Tinder who's only capable of responding with one word at a time. I was like, man, poor Wit, that's rough.
It's like all of this, and Kaladin, like, he's sitting there, and we're getting like the little tidbits of not just the plot of this whole series, but like the Cosmere as a whole. And Kaladin's like, oh man, I'll suffer through this cart ride, but yeah, I'm just gonna give listening indicators every now and then, and we'll call it good.
Yeah. Kaladin asks him, "What do you want?"
Yep.
And Wit replies, "What I can't have." And now I want to know what that is. It seems like Wit can have just about whatever he wants. He's kind of a god.
He knows everything. He can do whatever he wants. He can go wherever he pleases. Like what can't he have? Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he's old as heck, presumably.
He's got to be mega old,
yeah,
right?
He mentioned something about when Shallan comes up and gives him a hug. He's like, "Hey, watch out, Adolin."
Adolin's like, "Hey, yeah, pick on someone your own age."
And he's like, "That's one person around, but we don't really get along so well." And I was like, "Oh, another herald's, like god being somewhere."
Yeah, that's what he said. There's only one woman as old as Wit around these parts, right? And I'm thinking, is these parts just Roshar?
Right. Yeah, that was kind of my assumption.
How old do you have to be as old as Wit? Who is this woman? Yeah. I want to know.
Tell me.
Will you show me?
I want to know about the Wit's love interest.
I have here the note. This tradition may be an answer, the solution I've been looking for. Oh, that's when they're explaining their plan to Kaladin to do the
the rite of challenge or whatever.
The rite of challenge, yeah, to do the boon from the king to kill Sadeas or whatever. Now the thing is, John, this is a part of the book I remember very distinctly from the first time through.
Okay.
Just what happens at the very end of this. We'll get to it when we get there, right? But as a result, every time Kaladin was like, I wonder if I could somehow. I was like, no.
Yeah.
It was like making me really.
Right.
I was like getting anxious coming up to the end of the chapter because I was.
The foreshadowing was there. I did not pick up on it at all. Like the big climax of this part was a surprise to me, but. So they explain their whole plan. Invoke the Red Challenge after the spectacular battle so that they can duel Sadeas, and bing bang boom, Bob's your uncle, unite the kingdoms, call it a day.
Yep, Wit slips away off to who knows where.
As he is wont to do.
They go into a fun little menagerie where they run into, guess who? Dalinar and Amaram.
Oh boy. And Amaram has got a new job title.
He's got a fancy cape.
He's got to change.
And on it sits the double eye of the Almighty.
Somebody's got to change their LinkedIn because he's the head of the Recreated Radiance, ladies and germs.
Oh no, Dalinar, you picked such a bad guy. It almost makes you wish that at any point Kaladin had revealed his radiant powers to Dalinar.
That was
right? Doesn't it just kind of it just almost
that was the most like Tim Robinson voice you've ever used. You were like, And I just wish at any time you pay whatever.
God, that's
fair.
So funny to me because Tim Robinson, I love him so much, but I feel like he's not that. Is he that well known? Is anybody else gonna know who we're talking about?
I don't know. I mean, he's he used to be on SNL. They can Google him.
Look up Bubba basketball, and then come back to us.
Yeah, pause this right now. Go watch that video. Come back.
Really funny guy. But that it just killed me so
they
much.
go to the zoo, and then Kaladin is mad that Shallan and Adolin are happy because he can't be happy because the world sucks and he's his life's harder than everyone else's. But I mean, this part, do you
think Kaladin actually kind of has a crush on Shallan? He just won't admit it.
No, I don't think so. I think he's just like,
because he's picking a reason to be angry about the fact that they're having fun. But is that the real reason, Sean?
I think it's just like he's like, yeah, there's definitely some underlying thing. I don't feel like it's a crush on Shallan, but I think that it's like a, like why can't I be happy, And there's probably like some central like idea that sort of forms that, general concept in his mind, but I don't know what that is. But that was kind of my thinking. I was like, he doesn't like this because they're happy and he's not, and there's some reason, that this is. Or
do you want things to just work out between Shallan and Adolin?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, they're like the weirdest match, but it kind of works,
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, on the internet, you can find somebody who will ship any two characters, right? Like, pick two, there is a ship for that, right?
Yeah, I'm really...
but I think I'd be happy if things just worked out for Shallan and Adolin,
My fanfic is Eshonai and Amaram. That's that's my main ship. Yeah.
Cool.
Esharam.
Yeah.
Very cute.
I'm Gavilar's ghost and Hoyd, personally.
See, that seems more likely to me somehow than the scenario I proposed, because Hoyd's just the weirdest dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, though. It's the fact that, Shallan, she, like, lets slip all her sassiness and whatever, and her bad attempts at being funny, and it's, like, inappropriate. Yeah. And Adolin likes it, right? And I'm like, cool. Nice.
And it's funny, because, like, even Kaladin, picks up pretty much right away, like, that Shallan is, like, kind of acting in some ways, but not in others. Like, she's, like, laughing at, laughing at his jokes that probably aren't actually that funny, but also being, like, kind of genuine in some moments, and you, like, can't really get a read on her. But...
Well, at the beginning of this chapter, he was like, oh, Shallan's probably an assassin.
Yeah,
but then by the end of this part, he's like, Shallan,
probably not an
they probably is actually genuine. Yeah.
He knows that there's something going on, because he, like, sees in her eyes that she's, like, got a whole, not ulterior motives, but, just, like, a lot else going on besides what she puts forth.
Hey, it's duel day. Time for a 2v1.
Yep. Oh, boy.
Kaladin pulls, what's his name aside? Moash.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Moash, you're going to go for a walk. I'm going to put you out on patrol for a little while, out in the, not in the camps, but like what do you call that? Out doing bandit patrols or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
just away from the king and all that, right?
Word you're looking
and he says, you haven't been meeting with Graves and all them, have you? And he's like, just once, just to convince them that you would come around. Yeah. And Kaladin was like, well, I won't. And actually, I have officially decided now to move against Graves and his boys, and I'm going to turn them in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yes, go Kaladin.
Good stuff.
Unkill Syl. Unkill Syl. And that was really cool. I hope that nothing happens between now and him actually executing that plan.
I doubt it. Conflict isn't really a thing that Brandon Sanda does, He wants the best for all of his characters, and it all works out.
Adolin forgot his good luck chain, but that's fine, because I'm sure the duel's going to go great anyways.
Yeah, that's fine. It'll work out. It was at this point,
John.
And this kind of gets a little bit rectified in an unsatisfying way that I'll talk about, but when Amaram is declared the leader, and this is talked about at the beginning of this chapter a little bit, I was like, oh man, this is actually kind of the worst thing Dalinar has done, because like Kaladin told him this thing about Amaram, and it seems like he completely shoved that aside, like didn't have a care in the world, and then made this guy the leader of the Radiance. Like, this is like the one ding Dalinar has on his record for me all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's a bit of a whoopsie daisy.
Yeah. And like I said, it gets tied up a little bit, but we'll get there when we get there.
Mm-hmm. Because Dalinar can't actually do anything wrong.
You want to hear my really terrible prediction I made at the beginning of this chapter?
Yeah, dude.
I was like, all right, here's what's going to go down. Adolin's going to start definitely losing or definitely winning this 2v1. When then some greater event's going to interrupt the whole match, like Seth's going to attack, or like something's going to stop the whole thing going on, and it's going to be some big plot point, and that's what's going to happen. Which, of course, was not at all.
That's not a bad prediction. I could see that being how it went down,
this was at like 2 a.m. last night, but I was like, I could see this happening so clearly in my mind, like I could picture it, and that's not at all what happened. But
well, maybe in an alternate reality, but in this one, what happened instead was that Adolin got 4v1.
Yep, because Adolin never specified that he would be in a 2v1. He just said he would be in a disadvantaged match, which means that there are more people on the other side than his side, and that's pretty much the whole, long and short of it.
Yeah, he was like, bring whoever you want. And to him, whoever meant bring one person you want, and that one person could be whoever. But and
even then,
I guess more officially speaking,
Yeah, and the judge was like, you understand what you're agreeing to? And everyone was like, yep, definitely, absolutely. Set a date. Let's do it.
Yeah. And, well, now our next 3 chapters are pretty much all just this fight, right?
So, the 2 people he's fighting the 4 people he's fighting, are the champion of the duels, right, that he originally challenged in the first place. That guy's cousin, who he had just beaten. Yakimov, who was his friend that didn't want to hang out anymore. And the 4th person, I don't remember.
Fourth guy.
Some rando.
Yeah. So he starts fighting him, and it's going okay, but then it stops going okay, because it's a 4v1.
Zahel is being the best cheerleader he can from the crowd, yelling like, you gotta go all out aggression, don't let him corner you, more or less.
Yeah, it's a very cool fight, and I would love to see it animated.
Like so many things in this book.
Or acted out with cool CGI or something. However, we learn partway through the fight, after Adolin is getting like just the S word kicked out of him, right? That he can have teammates.
Right. So long as it stays at a disadvantage, he can have 2 people come help.
More people can go help? And this just seems like a really bad system to me, because first off, if he was allowed to have teammates, why did he start the fight before teammates hopped in? Yeah. Right? Like, for me, it would have been like, first order of business, hey, 2 people get in here. But then his opponent could have gone like, well, if they have 3, okay, let's get a couple more people in here. And then it would end up being like a 17 versus 15 or something.
Right. Yeah, it was...
It just... whatever.
It's kind of a weird technicality thing, but...
Dalinar's like, I'm going to go save my son. And Elhokar is like, no, you're not, because if you die, we're screwed. Right, And Dalinar's like, well,
this is the second time in this part that makes sense. Dalinar, don't stop trying to put yourself in harm's way. You can't do that. You're the king of Elhokar.
Dalinar's like, oh, wait, I know who is surely an incredibly honorable person who will help my son. Amaram! And Amaram averts his eye. He's like, nope, not me. And it's like, oh no.
Right. And so...
Amaram is maybe a bad choice. Who knows?
Yeah. This is immediately after he's done this, and immediately doesn't stand up for this. And so, who is the first person to enter the ring to help Adolin? Oh, jeez, it's Renarin, and he's not even wearing shard plate.
Boy. And I write rest in peace, Renarin. And then Kaladin hops in.
Yep, because of course.
And these guys are just at a severe disadvantage, aren't they? They have 2 people not wearing plate. Does Renarin have? He does have his blade, right?
Blade.
Kaladin just has a spear. Luckily for Renarin and Adolin, Kaladin is kind of a
OP,
boss.
Yeah. So Adolin, he kind of does an okay job at first, and he just kind of forgets the 4th guy, and then that's when, things start going wrong, so then Renarin runs in, and then one guy runs over to Renarin, and he's not really trying to fight him, he's just holding him at bay,
They're fighting. Kaladin, draws one guy away so that Adolin can have an honest-to-goodness 1v2, which he's actually good enough to probably win, which is great.
But the whole... Before
Shallan really sends her Spren down.
The important thing is that Adolin tries to yield, but he can't. They've bribed the judge to stop that from happening, and they basically say, if you yield, we're just going to kill Renarin at this point,
Yeah. So he can't back out even if he wants to. They're like, we're gonna cripple you, and that's just how it is. So suck it in.
Yeah.
Shallan sends Pattern down to go distract the guy attacking Renarin so that he doesn't get murdered. And eventually Syl is like, oh, what's that on the ground? And Syl flies over to go check out Pattern. Yeah. They've I think it's safe to assume that those Spren have made contact. There's an
actual meeting going down, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Kaladin, they do this whole freaking fight. Kaladin uses his storm powers, and it's bright daylight, so he's just like, hopefully nobody sees the stormlight pouring off my body. And he does this jumping, like, Omega kick by lashing himself to the other guy a bunch of times.
Triple lash.
And Kaladin is saying, like, well, I did it from such a short distance, I'm sure nobody noticed. But it's like, dude, you just kicked a Shardbearer in the chest so hard that both of your legs and feet broke, and you flung him back, like, 20 feet.
And cracked the Shardbearer,
like,
yeah.
If anybody in the audience was like, wow, that was a strong kick, and thought nothing more than that, like, they are stupid. They're very bad humans with bad, dysfunctional brains.
They're like, whoa, is Kaladin Chuck Norris? Remember that, like, ancient meme? Oh, wow. What a time.
Yeah, dude. That was a good 2000s meme,
yeah.
I want to say.
That was like a thing before memes were a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, my notes are
Kaladin ends up taking this guy's helmet after he's kicked him to death, more or less. And he puts it on his fist, and I guess, like, shard plate, contracts to fit perfectly around whoever's body is wearing it, right? So he puts it on his fist, and this helmet just, like, shrinks down to, like, a shard boxing glove. Kind of.
Much, yeah.
And Kaladin runs on in there, and he's using the Force because he can dodge stuff so well. It's like, he's saying, like, I can do it with my eyes closed, right?
The Stormlight's just totally guiding him on this fight, and then, he runs out kind of all at once.
Yeah. And we learned that the shard plate, the helmet he was wearing, has been feeding on his Stormlight. So the Stormlight he thought he had for this fight didn't last him nearly as long as he thought it would. And this makes me wonder, right? Like, well, we saw Knights Radiant in Dalinar's visions who were wearing shard plate, right? And they were still flying and healing people and stuff.
Like, where's this?
So why wasn't he training their Stormlight? And it reminds me that we commented way back when on the fact that their shard plate had, like, cool glowing glyphs on it, right?
Yeah.
So is that somehow...
source, because, like, otherwise they got to be carrying a ton of orbs to keep this whole, like, magic system flowing.
Yeah, and their helmets could appear and disappear and stuff. I'm thinking that maybe they had better shard plate, or, like, they knew how to use it better or something.
Yeah, they're like...
They knew some secret words that they could use to make it do cool stuff, or I don't know.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's their... during the recreants, like, how did the shard equipment change, basically?
Yeah. They get to a point in the fight where they're like, oh god, we're losing. Maybe we should just, I don't know, kill Renarin. And, Kaladin is, like, running towards this guy who's, like, hefting a big shard blade up to just kill Renarin outright. And Renarin's like, yep, kill me. He just, like, he just gives up. Shows his throat and just like, all right, I'm ready to die. And I'm like, oh my god, Renarin, what a freaking loser. I hate this kid. Luckily, Kaladin makes it on time to stop it because the guy hesitated. He did the clap. He caught the sword in midair.
Yeah. The totally impractical move.
And when he made physical contact with the sword, something happened.
Something bad.
He heard big, big screaming.
Yeah.
And apparently so did his opponent who was holding the blade. And that terrified his opponent into running and surrendering the fight by leaving the arena.
So, clearly, I mean, Kaladin even says it's like Syl screaming, right? Because he touched the shard blade, presumably.
Was it Syl?
Yeah, he says, like, it sounded like Syl screams or something.
I didn't get that.
He, like, calls her out by name, but then the other one, the guy, he's like clutching his head. He's like, "Oh no, what is it? I didn't kill you, did I? What happened?" And he runs and he goes crazy. So that was maybe Pattern doing stuff. There's a whole lot of Spren nonsense going on that we don't get a window into here.
Yeah.
I just have, like...
There's this bit where Adolin... Now it's down to, like, what? I think we eventually reach a point where it's actually a 2v1 kind of Kaladin and Adolin versus one last guy, right?
And Adolin's almost
champion.
Totally drained his shard plate.
And Adolin is just, like, grappling this guy, just, like, holding him to the ground. Yep. And Kaladin walks up behind him and puts the dagger between some of the chinks in his armor and is like, all right, well, I'm gonna kill you if you don't surrender. Yep. So think about that. And the guy yells, "Grappling is the way of the coward."
And Kaladin's just
like, dude, you
just like pricks him with the knife. He's like, "Okay, fine, I yield. Whatever."
I'm like, dude, you just tried to 4v1 it,
yeah.
dude. And now you're saying grappling is the way of a coward?
Yeah, honestly.
It was what a loser.
This whole fight was ridiculous. I was like, my notes were so scattered during this whole thing because there's so much stuff happening and like important things like the Syl thing and like, you know, just straight action that I'm trying to picture. And so like some of my notes are like, this is so hype, and then he kicks the guy, like, and then some are, you know, actually important. But
now there's the part. Okay, so hey, they won the duel. Hot dog. That's incredible. They just got a bunch of shards, like so many.
And their plan worked to perfection because Elhokar, he's like, hey, I'm impressed. Here's a boon, Adolin. Use it how you please.
And it's time to deliver the coup de grace politically, right? Yeah. Because now he can challenge Sadeas to a duel. Adolin will pretty much definitely win, and when he does, Sadeas is going down. His whole political faction is basically doomed.
And then Kaladin is like, and for my boon, I want to duel Amaram right now. He's a murderer and a crook and a terrible person altogether, and I hate his guts. And then he looks at Amaram, and Amaram, up to this point, hadn't recognized Kaladin, sees him, and gets like this horrified look in his eyes as he figures this whole thing out.
And I take great issue with that.
With
Amaram hadn't recognized him?
I know, right? That's crazy.
Are you kidding me? The last time they saw each other was less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? They've been seeing each other presumably a lot since Amaram arrived, because Kaladin hangs out with all the people Amaram hangs out with,
and
right?
This is like Amaram's like greatest like secret, other than the Stormwarden thing, but like the one we know about that could like ruin his whole like career, I guess.
Kaladin should be, by my humble estimation, one of the most significant humans in Amaram's life.
Absolutely.
Right? But hey, what do I know? I'm just a reader.
Right, whatever. Like how many horrifying things has Amaram done that, like, you know, getting his shards by killing all of Kaladin's friends so low on the totem pole that he doesn't even recognize him.
Maybe we're gonna learn later that Amaram has really bad eyesight. Like he's incredibly nearsighted.
That's probably it.
And then I would be like, oh well, okay. Can't fault him for that.
No problem.
But seriously, he didn't recognize Kaladin. Are you kidding me?
But this, oh boy, does this screw everything up, because now like Elhokar's like, arrest him, and Kaladin's like, yeah, arrest him, and then they, you know, grab Kaladin, and he's like, what, huh?
He's like, well, wait, arrest me?
What?
Yeah, well, it turns out that the boon was really just for Adolin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Moreover, a Dark Eyes challenging a pretty darn high-ranking Light Eyes,
one of the most important,
is just not gonna fly. Nope. That's just kind of culturally inept, not a unwise move by Kaladin. Who could have foreseen that Kaladin seeking vengeance would have ended up being a detriment to him?
If only somebody had told him that was a bad plan, but hey, you know.
If only he had, you know, a character flying around him who's basically his conscience, granting him a bunch of cool powers, who had told him that this was a bad idea.
If only he had a fairy godmother to tell him right from wrong. But alas, here we are. So he's chained up, and Dalinar is like, what in the world? Thank you for saving my sons. What were you thinking?
Yeah. I respect you, I love you, but dude, come on, yeah.
And Dalinar is like actually like yelling at him and getting in his face, and Kaladin's like, "Whoa, I've never seen this before."
Yeah.
Like,
Kaladin. Well, it's because Kaladin's being like this mopey edgelord about it. He's like, "You guys are all the same. You didn't even check if he was evil." And Dalinar's like, "You idiot! I did check.
17 witnesses spoke against you." Like.
Yeah, Dalinar, he performed like an extensive investigation on Amaram.
Right. And like, of course,
and it turns out that Amaram just cleaned up really nice and tricked him, right? But it wasn't for want of trying.
Yeah. Right. Like, what is Dalinar supposed to believe, you know? Like, this is the most outlandish claim, and he has all of these witnesses saying otherwise, like.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't know what you think happened with Amaram, but you're dead wrong, and you're stupid, and I'm sending you to prison because that's what Elhokar wants. You're lucky that I can talk him down from execution. Again, thank you for saving my son.
Yeah. Dalinar's like, no, seriously, like, we're gonna get you out of prison, but like, Elhokar wants to execute you, so we're just gonna let him cool down.
Right.
It's not your fault. It's your fault, but... Well,
I'm not mad.
Right. Downer's being cool about it, honestly.
Yeah. Right. And he's like, we just nearly outmaneuvered Thaddeus. I don't know what I'm going to do now. Yeah.
And Kaladin's going to jail for at least a bit, right?
And at this point, hopefully
he gets out of there by the time the countdown is expired. Hopefully Szeth doesn't come to kill everyone while he's in there.
Right. It's like insane. All of my faith in Dalinar is more or less restored here. I'm like, well, he couldn't have known any better, right? Like he did the best he could, right? To look into
he did
this.
A big investigation.
And like the fact that he doesn't hate Kaladin for ruining his whole plan, like you can still see both sides of this. I'm like, Dalinar, perfect human specimen.
Dalinar's really good, and then Kaladin is sitting there, right? And he's gonna go to jail. That's just happening, right? We're right at the end of the part, and he has a line. This is what comes of trusting Light Eyes. And in my note, I say, this is what comes of trusting Light Eyes? With 5 question marks and 2 exclamation marks, and I do actually regret that ratio a little bit. I feel like I could use maybe 1 less question, 1 more exclamation. And I'm like, no, Kaladin, this is what comes from seeking vengeance against the council of your honor spread, who seems to literally just be like the ultimate moral compass, right? This is what comes from not disclosing to anybody your terrible plan, not running it by Adolin or Shallan or Dalinar or any of these people who you can trust, right? This is what comes of not following up with Dalinar and making asking if he checked in on Amaram. This
not
is what comes of just like
your powers, like.
This has nothing to do with Light Eyes. This has to do with Adolin or Kaladin just being a big loser.
Yeah, like Kaladin during the chapter where he was flying around, I was like, oh, finally, he's out of his slump. But I was so happy for him. And at the end, I'm like, okay, have Light Eyes wronged him in the past? Yes, obviously, right? Does the fact that he's a Dark Eyes in this world just suck from the beginning? Of course. But like now he's scapegoated little things here and there to Light Eyes that probably weren't the issue. But this one, he's just like everything, and problems are only going to get worse from here. He's not seeing the actual problems. Things have gotten so bad.
It's like, in terms of like being a cool, happy guy who deals with his problems, has like figured out his purpose. It's like this is the middle of the road. Anything above this arm is like good. Anything below it is bad, right? So here he is at the beginning of this book, sitting down at like a 3 with 5 being the middle, right? And and he meets with Graves and all those guys, and he won't give Shen a weapon and all that. And oh no, he's actually dropped down now to like a 2, and it's just kind of a bummer. And now, holy shit, he's flying! Wow, he's way up there. He's like at a 7, and then immediately, oh no, now he's back at 0. Oh god, it's like
yeah, it's just
Kaladin.
And he can so easily turn.
It's been a bad book for Kaladin.
4 against everybody that's trying to help him and do the thing. Ugh.
It's been a really bad book for Kaladin.
Just the worst. Right before this, also, by the way, Thaddeus gets a little freaked out that he almost got cornered, but he's like, oh, well,
Yeah, he's like, oh, God, I lost there for a second.
Yeah, like, had to...
but the idea was that, Kaladin challenging Amaram not only got him thrown to prison, it also took away the opportunity for Adolin to nail down details of the duel against Thaddeus, so Thaddeus was able to respond and say, like, oh, yeah, I'll duel you in a year.
Right, when this is all going to be a non-starter anyway.
Yeah, so he basically weaseled out of it because of Kaladin's actions, which is just...
So Kaladin has messed everything up. Everything's bad.
Everything's bad. And that's how we end part 3.
Oh, jeez. What a mess. Fun chapters, though. I mean, fun in that it was, like... Because, like, there was the end of the part where Szeth attacked, and I was like, oh, this is crazy, like, this is plot of the whole series moving forward, like... Mad, and this was less, like, flashy, but it was still, like, big.
We've reached a really sad turning point, John.
What's that?
I think I like Adolin more than Kaladin now.
Yeah. Kaladin is...
I didn't think it was possible, but...
Kaladin is just...
I think we're there.
He's been on, like, he's had his ups and downs, but the whole thing has definitely been trending down this whole book. And this was the
Adolin's
the kicker.
Adolin's doing cool duels, and he's having fun with Shallan, and it's all great. I love Shallan now.
Right.
Shallan's up at like a 9 for me. Dalinar's a 10 still. Love Dalinar.
But
Kaladin is just... Kaladin and Renarin are just... They just suck, dude.
Just the worst. What do you think of think of Amaram these days? Now that we've got some more information on him. Just a little bit.
I think that I just want to know more about Amram. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to judge his.
That's all I can say about Amram right now.
Yeah, he's like the most mysterious. Like
the fact that he wouldn't go to defend Adolin kind of means that he sucks. Yeah. You know, I thought that it was like he sucks, but it's buried really, really deep, and outwardly he's just like such a good guy. But outwardly, it turns out he's not even that good of a guy, just like on your average day. And it makes me wonder why everyone loves him so much if he won't even go help a guy who's getting 1v4, you know?
Well, and that was the thing, is like Kaladin even brought that up to Dalinar when he was saying, you're wrong about Amaram, and he was like, well, if he's so honorable, why didn't he defend him? And Dalinar was like, well, you got me there.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see what comes of that, you know? Maybe...
That was pretty telling.
Maybe we'll have Confrontation Part 2.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, jeez.
Alright. That was, we kind of... I feel like we really picked up some steam on that one, and then we just kind of, like, hit this wall. Not...
Well, it's because I got so sad about Kaladin being such a
I mean, not necessarily
loser.
in our energy of the podcasting. It was just like, this part ended on a real downer, you know?
Just ended on a downer. Luckily, Part 4... Did you know that actually Part 4 of Book 2, everyone calls this the most funnest part?
Oh, good. That sounds great.
Yeah. We're going to read the interludes, of course, starting actually with an interlude on Lift, a character we have yet to meet, but who we will meet plenty more coming down the road. She's the main character, John, of Edge Dancer.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, so we get our first little tidbit of Lift, and of course we'll be reading that book between books 2 and 3 here. Yep. This next part is, 38,000 words. This is actually one of the longer ones we've done so far in this book. Okay. And we're going to be going up through chapter 66.
Alrighty. Yeah, that seems like quite a bit with the interludes, too. And we're getting pretty close to the end of this. Like, I was just looking at the book itself, and I don't have it, near me, but I was like, it looks like we're closing in a little bit.
That is correct. We only have 4 readings left.
Oh, wow.
We've already finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We finished 8, and we only have 4 remaining.
Yeah, gotta get Oathbringer on delivered.
Oh yeah, get that coming. And do you have a copy of Arcanum Unbounded?
I was thinking about just getting the audiobook version. So.
Yeah, sure. Audiobook version, good.
Credit.
Although I think the physical one has a lot of good pictures.
No. You had a copy that you gave away.
Well, I got it signed. I kind of did an Indian giver with that one. That's actually a racist sort of thing to say, isn't it? Maybe I feel bad about that. But that's where somebody gives you a gift and then you give it away to somebody else. The thing is, the person I gave it away to was actually the person who gave it to me.
Right.
He gave
Well,
it
I
to me
think
as a birthday
that's
gift.
the definition of Indian giver. Whether or not we should be using that term is like, when you give it back to the person that gave it to you.
Yeah, I got it signed and gave it back to him. Right. So that was kind of cool. But,
well, yeah, maybe I'll get the physical copy. I don't know. Either way, I will obtain a copy so that we can read Edge Dancer and so I can read all the other cool stuff in there.
Yes,
I was just talking to our friend Lucas about that, seeing what I was allowed to read and what I wasn't allowed to read based on what I have read.
Speaking of Lucas had the dopest theory.
Okay.
Remember how Hoyd put something in his drink in Shallan's flashback? Yeah. Dude, what if that was a little bit of metal and he was doing allomancy?
Oh my gosh, yeah. That
right?
Totally makes sense.
Like he said it, and I was like, that must have been what it was. Yeah. Because so Lucas was saying his theory was that Hoyd was using emotional allomancy on Shallan to get her to open up or something.
Yeah, I could see it for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. And once he said it, I was like, oh my god, that must have been what it was. Maybe he's even using a thorough allomancy if we don't even know that yet.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, and it's like, you just talking about that makes me really want to read Era 2 all of a sudden.
Era 2 is good.
Yeah.
Era 2 is good.
It's not finished, though.
Yeah.
But,
all right. Well, let's call it a night, John.
Good stuff.
I got a lot of
I've got a life.
Ladies waiting for me.
I gotta go eat dinner and then play League.
15 ladies.
Hey, don't get mono again, buddy.
You can only get it once, John, I think.
What?
I think
Really?
that's a thing.
There's like no way that's true.
It might be. I don't know.
I mean, this is hardly relating to the podcast, but I have to know.
All right, it's fine.
Let's see.
You can just stop listening now if you want, or you can wait for John to look this up.
Most people who have infectious mononucleosis will only have it once. Rarely, however, mononucleosis symptoms may recur months or even years later. Most cases of mononucleosis are caused by infection with the Epstein-Barr virus.
It said only once, John.
But in rare cases, you may have symptoms. But yeah, it doesn't sound like you can get it again. So.
Well, it said it may
right.
It may recur, but I don't think that's because you get
it's
the
probably
thing again. I think
effects.
it just goes dormant for a period, and then it kind of...
Hey, that was some good book reading. Hey, this is
really
John
good book
signing off. Major John to Tom.
And I'm Sam, and I'm going to go do a big pie. I'm gonna make one.
You know, you make fun of me for my bad outros, but this is upsetting.
I've never made fun of you for your outros. I think.
What? You totally have. Anyway, thanks for listening. Get out of here, you crazy kids.
I'm sorry.